Hey guys, it's Joe from Joe Reviews here to review Star Wars Episode 4, 5, and 6. Finally! It is time. Episode 8 is coming out. As you guys can see, I'm super excited. So, Episode 4 starts out with a crawl about an era that we don't understand. About a time of a rebellion, getting plans for this something star, this Death Star, and they have to destroy it. This is an epic opening to an epic movie. And then you see a big starship flying overhead. And back then, apparently the crowds roared in excitement. Today's audience, yeah, it's another movie. But back then, it was glorious. They'd never seen anything like this at all. And then the movie begins, where a princess is captured by this man named Darth Vader. And then you meet Luke, and the rest is history. It's so awesome. It is incredible. John Williams' music is the best. Star Wars is one of those that everybody knows. If anybody started humming Star Wars, you would know. If anybody hummed the Imperial March, which is not in this movie, it's in the next one, people would still know it. The battle, the trench run, everything, the ships, everything about this movie is brilliant. It is like watching Shakespeare on the big screen, and instead of being horses, it's space. You have your princess. You have your villain. You have your main characters. You have a group of heroes. It's fantastic. Now, it is the first big budget movie that George Lucas had ever done. And yes, some of the lingo really fits for that time period and not so much now. And a couple other things. The lightsaber duel is bloody horrible. I mean, it's the first time you see a lightsaber. That is awesome. Like, lightsabers are cool, but that lightsaber duel between Obi-Wan Kenobi and Darth Vader is kind of laughable. It's the worst one of all time. I don't think it could get any worse than that. But it was their first attempt at trying to do something new. Now the effects, if you watch the original, they don't look as good as they once did. At all. They just don't. It is very old school, and you can tell what is CGI and what isn't. But there's a bright side to this. I'll tell you later. Empire Strikes Back comes back with amazement. Not only did the lightsaber duel become a billion times better and the best lightsaber duel of all time, but they also had the Hoth battle, and even the effects look super realistic, and they don't look bad even to today's standards at all. Empire Strikes Back looks amazing, and John Williams' score comes back and kills it again. And again, it's like watching Shakespeare on the big screen in space. It's fantastic. And this time, George Lucas finally gets talking right. He finally has characters that make sense and don't sound as bad as they did in Episode 4. There are a couple times in Episode 4 where they don't sound like real people, but here they sound like real people. Yoda is a puppet, but he feels so real. Han Solo feels more developed. He doesn't feel like this scallywag anymore. He finally feels like a real person. Princess Leia, the first movie, had some very bad robotic lines, but now she feels totally human. And the whole Luke and Leia scene. Okay, Lucas did not know that they were brother and sister at this point. Like, he was writing the script for these at this time and really did not know what was going on with their relationship until Return of the Jedi. So, It's hit and miss with that. Return of the Jedi. Here's where I think Lucas is starting to differ from Star Wars. And instead of it being a movie, I think he was starting to think about toy lines and making money. You have the whole scene at Jabba's palace, which the original version of it, the 1983 version, makes sense. I'll tell you about that a little later on. But the 1983 version made sense for Jabba's palace. Once you get to Endor, stuff becomes very weird. At first it was supposed to be Wookiees, and it would have made a lot more sense if he had Wookiees in there. But no, he decided to use Ewoks, and I think this is where you get your toys and the money making begins, because Ewoks feel real. They feel like they should be in the Star Wars saga. The caveat to that is it felt really kiddish when you got to that point. You had Empire Strikes Back that felt like this dark, gritty movie, and Episode 7 felt like this, or Episode 6 felt like this light tone kids movie. It had a very odd shift in tone. But it's still a fantastic movie and a very good end to the Star Wars trilogy. John Williams again kills it with the music. Characters finally grow to a place that you want them to be. Characters end how you think they should end. Darth Vader finally has a redeeming factor about himself. That is what happens in Shakespeare, and this is why it's a Shakespearean play on the big screen, as I've said with all three films, that has an overarching theme of redemption, and it finally works at the end of the series. It works fantastic. It is amazing how well all three movies fit piece by piece by piece, and that's what we wanted with the prequel trilogy, and that is not what we got. Episode 7 is stitching in what the prequels messed up, and hopefully Episode 8 continues on a good movie streak. But I don't think Episode 7 hits the mark with Shakespeare like it should have. But Episode 4, 5, and 6, the original theatrical versions, were the best. They were amazing and should not have changed, Mr. Lucas, but you did. So, let's talk about 4, 5, and 6 remastered versions. Now, there's 3 versions of the remastered versions. I never really saw the VHS versions of the remastered, so I really cannot say much about them. But I did have the DVD Trilogy re-release. How do I think about them? Han shot first. There's a scene in the cantina where Han Solo in the remastered versions shoots second. It really doesn't make sense. Greedo would have killed him. End of story. The whole scene where Han Solo talks to Jabba the Hutt in Episode 4, that can stay in. And really, there's not much else that's different in Episode 4. So in all reality, except for the trench run, that was another big scene that was changed, but I think for the better. I know there's people that disagree with me, but I think the CGI does work a lot better in the remastered versions. I love it. And continuing on from that, the Blu-ray release is pretty much the same as the DVD with A New Hope, and I think it was well done. I just think the whole Greedo thing, it's really kind of dumb, but it really doesn't change the character as much as everybody reacts that it does. Now, Empire Strikes Back does really one thing that changes, and that is when Darth Vader talks to Sidious. During that whole conversation, they should have left it as it was, but it really does not change enough in Empire Strikes Back to merit a change. But I do like the CGI. It works a lot better with the remastered versions with the DVD and Blu-ray release. The Blu-ray looks better, and I think it helps with the movie. I think audiences can watch both The New Hope and Empire and enjoy it with the Blu-ray release and the DVD release. But Lucas, you always find something to change and ruin something. So Star Wars Episode 6, you put Hayden Christensen at the end of that movie, and you changed the music set at Jabba's palace. Both irritate me. Both really irritate me, but it's watchable, and the good news is the CGI is way better. It looks a lot better. The movie looks like a new movie. Audiences can watch it. On the Blu-ray, however, you add one extra layer, and that is when Darth Vader takes Sidious and throws him over. In the original version, John Williams' music blasts up, and it's fantastic. Nothing is said. You add the whole Episode 3. No! That ruined that entire scene, and I do not advise you to watch the remastered Blu-ray of Episode 6 at all. I cannot advise it because that scene is ruined, and it ruins a magical moment that was in the original trilogy. So how do I rank these movies? Episode 4 is a full 9 out of 10. Go watch it. Episode 5, 10 out of 10. Like, that movie is perfect. Nothing about it is bad. I loved it. Episode 6 is a 9.5 if you watch the DVD release of the remastered version or the theatrical version. They are both amazing. Go watch them. The Blu-ray, however, I would rank at a 6 out of 10 because it changes one scene and ruins it completely. And that is a big problem because that movie was amazing. And yet, one scene with one change can ruin an entire film. But that was my review of Star Wars 4, 5, and 6. The best trilogy ever made and ever will be. All you Lord of the Rings fans, that's the second best, but Star Wars beats it completely because it was amazing back in the 70s and 80s, and it is still amazing today. Go out and watch it, and remember to like and subscribe. See you in a couple days.